Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. We're really getting into something that I think is going to resonate with, well, anyone who's ever pushed themselves, really, especially in sports. We're talking about how to master that voice in your head. You know, the one that's always chattering away during those tough practices, intense training sessions, and especially in the heat of a game.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? You send over some super interesting stuff for this deep dive. Like, we've got this whole collection of quotes. Some are inspirational, some are, well, kind of funny, actually. But a lot of them, they come straight from the world of volleyball and coaching, which is perfect for our audience.
For sure. And I think our mission today is pretty clear. We want to give everyone listening some really concrete tools, mental strategies they can actually use, and even a go-to phrase to help them deal with those ups and downs that are just part of the game.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, we all want to be mentally tough, right? But how do you actually do that? It's more than just thinking positive thoughts. It's about building this framework in your mind that helps you bounce back, helps you stay focused when things get rough.
Okay, so let's break this down. It seems like, when you look at all these quotes, this idea of attitude, like your basic mindset, it just keeps coming up. There's this one from Charles Swindoll that really struck me. He says, life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. And he goes on to say that we are in charge of our attitudes. Like, that's powerful stuff because it means that even when things are going sideways, like a bad call, or you're up against a really tough opponent, you still have this choice about how you're going to react on the inside.
100%. And, I think the word control is interesting here because it's not about just like squashing down any negative feelings. It's more about choosing to see the situation differently, like putting on a different set of classes, even if it's just for a split second.
Right, and that can make all the difference. There's another quote from Felicity Lucky that really drives this home, especially for volleyball players. She says, attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference between volleyball success and volleyball failure. So, your mental state, it's not some fluffy extra, it's directly impacting how you play.
Absolutely. And this is where, the document you sent, the daily quote PDF, that really adds another layer. It says that something like 95% of our emotions come from how we interpret things to ourselves. Like, that's huge. So let's say you're in the middle of a rally and your teammate sets the ball, but it's not the set you were expecting.
Right, and you immediately think, ugh, that was a terrible set.
Exactly. And just that thought, that interpretation can trigger a whole cascade of frustration, and that can mess with your focus for the rest of the play.
So it's like becoming aware of those stories we tell ourselves, those interpretations, that's a big first step.
Totally. It's like developing this, I don't know what to call it, like a meta-awareness.
Yeah.
Being able to step back even for a second and just notice that voice in your head. Is it helping you or is it dragging you down? And realizing, hey, you're the one telling that story. That's powerful.
Now, let's be real. In any sport, especially volleyball, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to miss serves. You're going to get blocked. It's part of the game. But how you handle those moments mentally, that's where the real growth happens.
Yeah, no doubt. There's this quote, I think it sums it up perfectly. It says, "It is okay to err, but it is not okay to stop playing. It is okay to lose, but it is not okay to give up." Like, that's a mantra right there.
For sure. It's like mistakes happen, you can't avoid them, but you don't let them stop you. And that daily quote PDF, it has this other way of looking at it. It says there are no failures, just experiences and your reactions to them. I like that. It takes the sting out of making a mistake.
Totally. It shifts your perspective.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that didn't go as planned, but what can I learn from it? How can I adjust for next time?
Yeah. It becomes data, it's feedback. And speaking of, that longer view, there's another quote that says, success is the ability to go from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm, which, that can be tough, right?
It can be, but it's so important because improvement, it's not linear. It's not like you just keep getting better and better. There are going to be setbacks. There are going to be times when you feel like you're going backwards. But if you can hold on to that passion, that fire, that's what keeps you going.
Okay, so we're building this mental toolkit, right? Be aware of your attitude, reframe mistakes, keep that energy up. But how do you actually put this into practice in the middle of a tough drill or a crazy match? Troy Tanner, he has this really simple advice. Breathe.
Yeah.
Be in the moment.
Yeah, and it sounds so basic, but it's amazing how effective it can be. When you're under pressure, your mind can go a million miles an hour.
Yeah.
You're thinking about the last point. You're worrying about what's going to happen next. But just taking that conscious breath, it brings you right back to the present. It's like hitting the reset button.
And that daily quote PDF, it talks about this too. It says, Training yourself to live in the present without regretting the past or fearing the future is a recipe for a happy life. And it makes sense that this would apply to sports as well.
Totally.
Yeah.
When you're fully present, you're not caught up in your head. You're not second-guessing yourself. You're just there, reacting, playing the game.
So you can't change what already happened, and you can't control what's going to happen, but you have complete control over what you do right now.
And that's where your power is. And it's interesting how this all ties into self-reliance, like having that internal motivation. We saw that quote earlier, the one that says, I want to be as self-reliant as possible and do it all from within. That speaks volumes, right?
Absolutely. It's about finding that drive from inside yourself, not always looking for someone else to pump you up or tell you you're doing a good job.
Because relying on external validation, it can be really fleeting. It's like what happens when your coach isn't there or your teammates are having an off day?
Exactly. You got to be able to light your own fire. There's another quote that puts it really well. Success is not the result of spontaneous combustion. You must set yourself on fire.
Love that. It's like nobody's going to do it for you. You got to take ownership, be proactive.
Okay, so let's talk about the team dynamic for a second. That pasted text document you sent, it had some good points about this. It talks about how after a good play, you should turn to your team and celebrate with them, not focus on the other side.
Yeah, it's subtle but important, like where you direct your energy after a win. It really matters.
And it's not just about celebrating, it's about accountability too. The text says, do not blame a win on anyone other than yourself. Do not look for a scapegoat. Take ownership. It's like, be responsible for your part no matter what the outcome is.
Which is so key for building a strong team. If everyone's pointing fingers, nobody's learning, nobody's improving.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of different ways to shape that internal conversation, but let's get super practical here. What about when you make a mistake? You miss a serve, your spike goes out, you get totally stuffed at the net.
Ugh, yeah. We've all been there.
Right, and we talked about breathing, but is there like a specific phrase, something you can say to yourself to just reset and move on? Something short and powerful that embodies all this stuff we've been talking about.
I think there is. And based on everything we've discussed, that phrase is next point.
Next point. I like
Yeah.
it. It's simple, it's direct. What makes that so effective, especially in the heat of the moment?
Well, for one thing, it's short. It's easy to remember, even when you're feeling stressed or frustrated. You don't need to remember some long, complicated affirmation. And it immediately shifts your focus. You're not dwelling on the mistake. You're already thinking about the next opportunity.
And it's not about ignoring what happened. It's like you acknowledge it, but you don't let it take over. There's that quote from the Daily Quote PDF. It says, the problem is not how to get new thoughts into your mind, but how to get the old ones out. And next point, that feels like a way to do exactly that.
Yeah, totally. It's like clearing the cache, getting rid of those negative thoughts that are just going to hold you back.
So to recap, when you're out there practicing, training, playing, build that inner dialogue that's positive, that sees mistakes as opportunities, that stays in the moment, that relies on your own strength, and that puts the team first. And when you mess up, when you make that error, have your reset button ready. Next point.
And remember, this is a practice. It's a skill. Just like you train your body, you got to train your mind. Be consistent. Be aware of what's going on in your head.
Mhm.
And don't expect to be perfect at it right away.
And on that note, here's something to think about. How could you use that next point mentality in other areas of your life? Not just in volleyball, but in anything where you face challenges, where you make mistakes. How could that shift your thinking, your approach?
That's a great question, and something for everyone to explore on their own.
Absolutely. And as always, we encourage you to keep digging into these ideas, see how they fit with your own experiences. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
See you next time.